From Cub Scout to Boy Scout to state legislator. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts of America, and we're visiting with its president, the Honorable Alan Clemmons. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Greg.
Thank you so much for coming in on such an exciting week.
It's good to be here.
It is great to have you back and reelected to the State House. The most exciting aspect there is obviously the ability to have a good Horry County representative who's also representing the Boy Scouts and traveling all over the state like you do. It's a big deal.
Thank you, Greg. It does take a lot of time, but it's a very rewarding opportunity I have to represent the people of Myrtle Beach and Briarcliff Acres and Prestwick in my job as representative. But I do have fun as president of the Boy Scout Council.
Oh, yeah. You're also, I believe, Alan, the chairman of the I-73 Association to help plan out the route and plan out the infrastructure and plan out all the activities that go into actually making I-73 more of a reality than it already is.
Well, I do have the honor of chairing it, but truly it's a team sport. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people that have been, including yourself, as you know, Greg, mm-hmm. who have been very involved in moving the issue of I-73 forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Alan, what's it like having finished your first term, now rolling into the second term as a House member?
Well, you know, I look back over the last 2 years and am very gratified to see that a lot of the issues that were important to my constituents, that we've been successful in moving those issues forward. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to look forward to the next 2-year session. With that experience behind me, hopefully I'll be a little bit more effective for my constituents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Every 2 years, I suppose, it gets that aspect of being even more and more effective for House members and Senate members, and you all tend to work well together.
Yes, we do, for the most part. Certainly our local delegation, we all work very well together. And we have a bit larger group than our local delegation, which would be the NISA group, the group that are a part of the Northeastern Strategic Alliance. Mm-hmm. And we all work very, very closely together and have friends throughout the entire General Assembly.
Oh, yeah. That's a bevy of Democrats and Republicans.
That's correct.
Think of folks like Yancey McGill.
That's right.
And folks like yourself and Senator Rankin and others who really tend to work well together.
We all do work very well together.
Mm-hmm.
On issues that NISA takes up as important, such as I-73, mm-hmm. such as an international trade center. We find ourselves just working hand in glove together on those issues.
Of course, right here at our studio, immediately adjacent to the current runway and even closer to the potential new terminal for the Myrtle Beach International Airport, NISA, another big issue is possibly looking at even down the road another airport, a more regional airport.
That is correct, Greg. Looking at a regional airport as a part of our long-term planning, certainly it's not in the short-term plans, but we need to have an eye toward the future. And for NISA, that is an important aspect of the future for the northeastern area of South Carolina.
Absolutely. Alan, real quick, about yourself, are you originally from the area? For viewers in the PD or southeastern North Carolina who may not know your reputation here in Horry?
Greg, I am. I was born and raised in Myrtle Beach. I have lived here all my life, except for the time I've been away for education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you still have family here in the area?
I do. My mother and father live here. They don't live in my district, unfortunately. They live in Deerfield, which is, my district goes as far south as Prestwick at 544. Right. So they're just across Highway 544 from my district. I also have aunts and uncles here, and my sister, I have one sister, and she lives in Columbia, so I get to visit her when I'm in session.
Is that right?
That's right.
Now, have Laura and your daughters made many trips up to Columbia to visit you while you're in session?
A few, not as many as I would like. Of course, my children are young and in school, so we have to take them out of school judiciously.
Right. You know, last week, I think it was last Tuesday at the March of Dimes Star Chefs auction, I was talking to the wife of a soon-to-be representative and hearing her talk about what it's like just imagining her husband traveling to Columbia and imagining him being gone 2 nights a week, having been married for almost 40 years. And his first term, which is, we're excited to celebrate his entrance up to Columbia. But, you know, it's amazing when you think about the impact that it can have on families. And that's a family that doesn't have young girls like the two of y'all.
Well, certainly I could not be serving the people of the 107th District but for a very supportive wife. And Laura is very supportive in this effort. She's at home keeping the home fires burning and tending to the children while I'm away. And it's frequent, but I find it rewarding in serving the people, and she finds her reward in helping me do that and serving in the family and being the one keeping those home fires burning. Couldn't do it without her. I enjoy our time together with my wife and the children. But you know, when we're away, we're still as close as a telephone call, and we communicate several times a day.
I've seen that fancy gadget you hold in your hand, Alan, which is like a phone and a keypad and everything. Does it have the opportunity to do video conferencing? Can you communicate with your girls by video?
Well, I can't do video conferencing, but I can take a picture of myself and send it to them if they forget what Dad looks like.
Well, it is I saw you I think it was last Thursday at the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. They had an annual thing, and someone, Brad Dean or otherwise, said all the elected officials stand up, and I saw Alan stand up. He had this fancy thing in his hand. I thought he is communicating with somebody with that, which was great.
I was. Today, communication's incredible. I can make a phone call, or I can send an email or send a picture sitting in one spot. It's incredible.
That little handheld thing.
That's right.
That's a great way to keep up with all the volunteers that donate so much time to the Boy Scouts.
Well, it is, and I do have a lot of those volunteers programmed into my PDA. It balances my whole life. It balances my volunteer efforts. It balances the work going on in Columbia and my work here in Myrtle Beach as well.
I don't know how you keep it all going, Alan. We think about just your involvement, obviously, with the freshman caucus, which now you're no longer a freshman as of earlier this week.
I served my 2 years, and I suppose now I've graduated from being a freshman.
Yeah, you're a sophomore.
I'm a sophomore now.
That's very exciting. Soon you'll be a junior. Now, what happens after those first 4 terms?
I don't see an end. I don't see an end.
That's right. You know, it's so when we think about elected office, and one of our guests on Mondays, Elizabeth Teal's father, had made that comment when he was in visiting with us, talking about Gallivan's Ferry. John Jenrette had talked about somebody has to do it. If you didn't do it, obviously the 435 congressmen would not, the Congress wouldn't run if folks did not give up and if families did not support their husband or wives going off to Washington or going off to Columbia. Government would shut down, and really America would shut down.
That's true. One thing, Greg, I've thought of in the past is the sacrifice, if that's what you want to call it, of going to Washington or going to Columbia is a much easier sacrifice today than it has been for our forebears who served in these positions. If you could imagine leaving Horry County and going to Columbia before the advent of the automobile. And I suspect that our representative at that time lived in Columbia during the session. And how do you communicate? By letter. It's much easier today than it was then.
That's right. Your PDA can do so much of that. Of course, that aspect of Henry Brown now traveling on a regular basis up here to fly Hooters Air up to Baltimore. And of course, Independence Air having recently landed in Charleston and now having direct flights into Dulles or into National. I think even more flights coming out of the Myrtle Beach area straight into Washington.
That must make it much easier for Congressman Brown.
Absolutely. Share with viewers some of the updates on what's happening with the PD Area Council now. Jim, you all have gone through a heck of a lot with the loss, I know, about, 11 months ago of Jim Head heading back to Texas. And after such a strong tenure with a scout executive like that, I know making so many moves, but y'all have got a lot going on, a lot of letters going on about the popcorn, and obviously with the DCA dinner coming up on the 13th of December.
We do have a lot going on, Greg. Over the last year, we've been working hard to make our council stronger financially, stronger in terms of membership, to provide this wonderful program that the Boy Scouts of America offers to young men and young women throughout the PD. We are reaching our goals in that effort. We have, for a number of months, we spent a great deal of time investigating the possibility of consolidation between our council and our neighboring council, the Coastal Carolinas Council, which is based out of Charleston. I got to know the folks in Charleston very well and have created a great relationship with them, although we did decide that it would be in the best interest of our two councils to remain independent. So we're moving forward. Many people don't understand how significant the fundraising effort is for the Boy Scouts, to keep that program alive, to be able to offer those youth the opportunities of the value-based organization and education that comes through the Boy Scouts. Therefore, you and I spend a lot of time out there trying to raise money, working to raise money for that effort. And to that end, we do have a big event coming up in December.
December 13th. It's on a Monday night.
Monday night, December the 13th in Florence, at the Civic Center in Florence. We'll be honoring one of the great people of South Carolina. We'll be honoring Emerson Gower as our Distinguished Citizen of the Year. Emerson Gower is the CEO of Progress Energy, formerly known as South Carolina Electric and Gas, I believe.
CP&L. That's
CP&L.
Right.
This event will be a fundraiser in addition to honoring Mr. Gower. And I would like to invite our entire audience here to be a part of that. It's going to be a wonderful event.
We wanted to make sure that we got you in. I know we're a good ways out, and I talked to Don Weaver, who's going to come in a little closer to the event to help drive some participation. There's so many folks. We want to get some PD area guests in as well. The excitement for an event as significant as the PD Area Council's annual DCA, the Distinguished Citizens Award Dinner. And, of course, for the last number of years, you had an amazing honoree last year, the gentleman, the big folks who sold the hospital have really committed a heck of a lot back to the community there in the PD.
This is Dr. Lee, and absolutely, Dr. Frank Lee, a wonderful man, has given so much to the PD area. And it's people like Dr. Lee and Emerson Gower who really do lead the way on supporting charitable activities throughout the PD area. And it's people like that we wish to honor.
Alan, it's amazing how so many of those key players give so much time to whatever the charity of their choice is in the PD. Folks like Frank Lee and others who really step out and make such a commitment. I almost don't know how they do it.
It truly is, Greg. And when you look around us, there's so many people within our community that are exactly like that. They give everything to serve others.
You know, speaking of key players, it made me think about when I was visiting the SCI73.com website. That's SCI-73.com. Something that Brad Dean was with us a couple of months ago was really driving home the point about making an effort not just for key players, but there are anyone you know that is an elected official or is a spokesman in a community to reach out to them because they will get to those key players regarding I-73. That has such a dramatic impact on the community.
Absolutely. In fact, we can drop the word key from key players and just make it players, because we as a community are all involved in the effort of moving the I-73 agenda forward. It's a tide that will truly raise all ships throughout the PD. And anybody who knows any individual in government, in state government or in federal government, that contact with your state house representative or with your congressman can make all the world of difference into the progress of a project like I-73.
It is incredible. And of course, an event like this, Alan, where you're thinking about 7, 10, 5 years that go into making that happen, every day that you're constantly communicating with somebody who can speak out on behalf of this. How could our viewers in the PD, I know Alan or Brad talked about that, but for viewers who may have missed his interview, how could one of our viewers, let's say in Floydale or in Dillon or in Mullins, make a difference in the battle, the real battle to help make I-73 happen?
Well, the key issue is going to be at this point in time in funding I-73. As you know, Greg, I-73 is the most important new highway project in South Carolina, as determined by our Highway Commission, as determined by the General Assembly. We are all singing off the same page. Our congressional delegation in Washington is working hard to bring about that funding aspect. But every time they get a letter or a phone call to Henry Brown or Congressman Clyburn or Congressman Spratt or any of the congressmen from any constituent, it makes the world of difference. You know, Congressman Clyburn told me a few months ago as we were talking about I-73, he said, you know, I've never had a significant issue where I've had more than 6 letters written to me by my constituents on that issue. 6 letters. So those few contacts can make the world of difference.
Well, now, would that be indicative of all congressmen? I mean, how could that be that,
I think it is indicative. I think that many of us sit back and we believe, for instance, with regard to I-73, they say, well, it looks like everybody's working hard on it, so I can sit back and be comfortable, and in 8 or 10 years I'll be able to use the interstate. Well, it takes everybody working together to make it come together. And that's why I would just... That's why our congressional delegation and their associates and contemporaries in Washington were so impressed when we took over 100 folks from the PD to Washington to go out and visit with their congressmen. It made a huge impact because they just don't see that kind of involvement.
Now, if obviously I-73 is going to impact a heck of a lot of states, if viewers from the PD or southeastern North Carolina are writing congressmen and women outside of their own area, would that have an impact, or does it really just matter if you're writing to your own congressman or woman?
No, truly, Greg, you are on point. Any congressman that you know or have a relationship with, contact that congressman. Let him know how you feel about I-73. If you're in Marlborough County or Dillon County, Marion County, Horry County, it makes no difference. Contact the congressional delegation members that you know. Let them know what a difference I-73 would make to you with regard to economy, jobs, travel. It will impact all of our lives.
I'm glad you mentioned Jim Clyburn. Of course, you were talking about Henry Brown. Obviously, we serve John Spratt's district.
That's correct.
Robin Hayes' district, Mike McIntyre's district, 2 other congressmen from North Carolina, and I'm sure someone else over here in the Wilmington area that comes in out of, there's a large district that spills into Brunswick County. So it's amazing to think how many folks you could potentially reach out to.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the North Carolina congressman. Truly, they are very significant to our effort as we are tying into the North Carolina system. So we need that dialogue, we need that cooperation and partnership.
Looks like 6 states primarily involved, where you've got Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina,
and Virginia. Yes.
And Virginia. So y'all are making a concerted push on congressmen and women and U.S. senators from all of these states.
From throughout the corridor and beyond, actually. We're visiting with every congressman that will give us a moment of their time, because it's all of Congress will be voting on the funding, not just our delegation.
That impact, you know, when a viewer hears about something costing $5 million or $10 million, when they begin to change the M to a B, it takes some, I mean, it almost becomes not a scary number, but it almost becomes unfathomable for a viewer to understand how those numbers work. How do they work, Alan? and talk about the significance for them. And obviously, they're not footing that entire bill.
Greg, it is unfathomable, almost. In fact, I heard one individual refer to the $2 billion price tag estimated price tag of I-73 as the $2,000 million price tag. It is an incredible amount of money, and it's a huge obstacle for us to overcome. But indeed, we and our congressional delegation are overcoming the obstacle. Now that we have the election behind us, Greg, our congressional delegation is moving forward with the funding plan for I-73. We believe that the funding is going to take place very soon, the first significant funding since we received the $1 million from Congressman Brown. The first significant funding since that time is going to happen sooner rather than later.
How exciting.
We are excited.
You've got to be. And of course, you talk about some of those, getting in touch with the men and women in Washington. There are 1-800 numbers that folks can call. They may not be on the top of our head. Obviously, we always hear 212 numbers, but folks need to know they can pick up a phone and reach them. I'm sure if they open their phone book, they can find those numbers to reach those folks. And you talk about letters being very important, but even calling those folks and making sure they have the right address so they can send follow-up letters.
Absolutely, Greg. And don't forget to thank your local delegation members, your local House members and senators. It's through the effort of the House of Representatives that we've been able to move this process forward to the Department of Transportation and to Congress. So thank them for their involvement as well.
You know, one of those final debates that were occurring out at Coastal Carolina University in the recent past between Secretary of Education Inez Tenenbaum and Congressman Jim DeMint, hearing those folks talk about I-73, and particularly Jim DeMint talking about that aspect that oftentimes a lot of things will be thrown into a package, and oftentimes a congressman or woman cannot vote on something because it's been laden down with a lot of other issues. So viewers also need to be cognizant of the fact that something they're really pushing for oftentimes may be very difficult for their representative to vote on because it's been really laden down with something.
It can be quite difficult. We see that on the state level as well. Our own Governor Mark Sanford has had some difficulty with some very good issues, not because of those issues, but because of other issues that have been tied to it in the same legislation. So that's certainly a consideration.
Alan, we got 3 minutes, and we're about a month and a half, obviously, from the DCA dinner. We're a little less than a month and a half, a month and 9 days, and surely getting Don in here. There's some other things that viewers could do to help the PD Area Council, the Boy Scouts, and I'm so glad you mentioned girls as well. Obviously, explorers and so many other aspects of girls being involved, as well as a very active Girl Scouts of America group within the PD area. But what could a viewer do to be involved if they couldn't attend the DCA dinner on December 13th? Or popcorn is something that y'all are really pushing heavy now.
Well, you're right. We have a wonderful Girl Scout program in the PD. And one thing the Girl Scouts have done very well are cookies.
Oh, yeah.
Girl Scout cookies, Greg. And the Boy Scouts in the PD want to establish the same kind of rapport with regard to popcorn.
Right.
It's a prepackaged popcorn. You'll see our young men and young women at local grocery stores, at Walmarts, and going door to door selling popcorn. Please participate with them in that program. It helps fund their programs. It helps fund programs throughout the entire PD. Many don't realize that it costs over $100 per child to be involved in the Boy Scouts of America. And we serve so many underprivileged children that we require the funding. We need the funding in order to provide the program to those children. So popcorn is a big part of that. You mentioned our DCA dinner. We talked a little bit about it. That's our Distinguished Citizens Award dinner. You can become involved by contacting me at 448-8405. It's 448-8405. And I'll be happy to get you involved. We need volunteer leadership. We don't just need funding. We need help as mentors to the youth. If you're interested, I'd love to hear from you because there is an opportunity for you to serve.
That's a big commitment, Alan. Obviously, giving your own phone number for folks to be able to reach you, 843-448-8405. That is a huge commitment. I know you give out that number for so many different groups, but the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts stands out among those because I know that's such a big effort to reach youth within this 10, 11 county PD Area Council area.
I think it's important. I believe the Boy Scouts is one of those organizations that will make a difference in our society for years to come. It's a value-based educational organization that made a world of difference in my life, and I believe will make the world of difference in many lives for many years to come.
Alan, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with the Honorable Alan Clemmons coming up next. It's that impact that's made many years from now. You feel it many years from now. You need to make those efforts now. Commit to the Boy Scouts. It's just like talking about Interstate 73. All those efforts you could make right now. Contacting your local delegation, contacting your Washington representatives, your federal delegates. That commitment to step out now to make those efforts will impact road building 10 years from now, or 7 years from now, or 5 years from now. In the same way, the same commitments you make today to the Boy Scouts of America or to the Girl Scouts or any other amazing charitable group, but particularly the Boy Scouts, will have bigger impacts as years go by, as the effects are drawn on those young men and women, and as they reach out in the community and do the same thing you're doing right now. Call that number, 843-448-8405. Again, 843-448-8405. Leave a message for Alan Clemmons if he's not around. He'll forward it on. Buy a ticket to the DCA dinner December 13th, or buy some popcorn, give it to a family member, or give it to your minister. But make an effort.